Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jorhena Thomas, and we are here for another session of I Didn't Know That Was a Job. I am super excited to be here with Joely Bertram today. Hi, Joely.
Hi, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, you all, we are in for a treat because Joely has such a unique and cool and interesting job. And she's going to talk to us about it and about what she does, how she got there, and any other things that will be good for us to know. So, I'm going to tee it up and say that Joely is working at the intersection of emergency management, intelligence slash national security, and marketing slash showmanship. And I know that sounds like an interesting mix, but Joely's going to talk us through it. So, Joely, let's start by you just telling us what it is that you do.
So, my official title is Emergency Management Consultant, and I'm within a preparedness division of Haggerty Consulting.
Okay, that's fancy. Now break it down for us a little more. What do you do on a daily basis?
Well, first and foremost, as a consultant, I'm hired to help out jurisdictions, counties, townships, even states, universities, healthcare systems with anything emergency management related, anything from their writing their plans for perhaps a tornado or training a local fire department, anything you can think of that has to do with preparing for a disaster or an emergency. I'm hired to basically assist in that process for our clients.
Okay, that sounds so practical and cool. So I understand a little birdie told me that you have a lot of creativity that's wrapped up in what you do and helping with this planning. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of a little area I've designated for myself within my company. But a lot of our clients have options as to who they can go to for writing their plans or organizing their exercise events. And something that I think helps us stick out is what I call the cherry on top work. So the things that make it look pretty or add a little razzle dazzle. And so what I like to work on, especially with exercise events, which are these huge events put on to train, law enforcement, fire departments, EMS, people in the medical field, is making it realistic and fun and adding graphic elements. I run our social media simulator. And so just making things as, kind of showy as possible, keeping them immersed, keeping them engaged, and making everything look pretty while we're doing it.
What is a social media simulator in the context of working with this work?
Yeah, so there are plenty out there. We have our own version that we've built up, but it's an enclosed space of the internet where we can simulate social media chatter and activity and even fake news. And it's to help during these exercise events, our players practice for different types of situations. So, a public information officer for a county, their job is to address concerns from the public. And so if I can simulate a bunch of people asking for help or assistance during a simulated emergency, then they can practice that way. Or if we're training intel analysts where they have to sift through a bunch of white noise, or just nothingness to get to the actual core information of an event or an exercise, I can do that as well. So I can just kind of flood a fake social media feed with a bunch of chatter and then kind of slip in there, clues as to what they're actually looking for. So, if we're simulating a hurricane event, if there's a bunch of nothingness, people just talking, 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 and then there's someone saying, I'm at this specific avenue and I need help from the fire department. That's how they'll be able to pick up on that information. So it's a safe space. There's no worry about, the public seeing anything and thinking, oh no, there's an emergency. It's a safe enclosed space where players can practice for different types of events.
Now, I've seen your work and I've seen your fake social media environment and the fake news that you create in this environment for training purposes. And it shows that you really have your finger on the pulse of the way people think and the way that maybe bad actors or terrorists or whatever, how they think. So, how do you do that? Like, how do you stay so plugged in to be able to make these realistic materials for exercises and practice?
I honestly look to my own social media for inspiration, just to see how people organically interact and even talk on the internet. Just staying very keyed into what people are concerned about, how people are speaking to one another and messaging one another. And of course, practice makes perfect. The more these exercise events that I do, the more I get feedback from our clients. What do the players like? What do they kind of, skip over? And just trying to make it as realistic as possible. I know that our social media simulator, we're always improving. So we just added a new social media tab that's kind of simulating a mix between YouTube and TikTok. So we'll be able
Whoa,
to add video capabilities now to our social media, which I think is very relevant. Of course, people are watching videos, getting those quick, snapshots of news, of information, just that constant bombardment of, content really. So I think that also helps with keeping things relevant and immersive.
for sure. I told you all she had a cool job. Okay, so let me just turn this real quick before we wrap up. I want to know how you got this job. Like, what was your path to getting this type of amazing work and then carving out this niche for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly started back in high school. I was nominated for this leadership conference for students. And from this leadership conference, there were a bunch of sub conferences you could choose from, any field or industry you can think of, everything from biochemical engineering to fashion merchandising to culinary arts, just whatever you can think of, they had it. But the thing that I was most attracted to was the Intelligence and National Security Conference. And so at the time, I'm from Illinois, so I got to go to American University in DC, have this week-long conference of doing mock UN work and meeting people in the military and just seeing how the intel community functioned. And that really sparked my initial interest and also helped guide my college search. Every school pretty much has some sort of political science or law enforcement type of degree, but that's not exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for the intelligence, national security. And that's how I got to finding Virginia Commonwealth University. They have a Homeland Security and Emergency Management program. And so that's exactly what I did. And it was a really cool program. I think it was one of the first in the country to have a program like this, more kind of, cropping up. But I really enjoyed it. I was definitely more interested in the Homeland Security side of things while I was in school. Those classes were more like the psychology of terrorism and a whole course on CBRNE weapons and usage.
Well,
Um,
what is for those who don't know, what's CBRNE?
Yes. So the acronym stands for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear Explosive Weapons. So any type of weapon, basically, or bomb or explosive, it falls into this category. So it was actually a very sciencey class, learning about the different kinds and how they can be used. And that eventually led me to my current job. So actually, I'm doing exactly what I studied to do, which I feel like is not very typical. I'm still in the Homeland Security emergency management field, but also this is my first job outside of college. And so, I don't have, decades of experience with a bunch of jobs under my belt, but I feel like I've really carved for myself the type of experience and job that I want within the position that I have. And so while I can do a bunch of natural disaster projects or after action reports after an event happens, I've been doing more and more of the intelligence and active threat work, which is also what I studied. So it's kind of doing a combination of, everything that I've studied up until this point, and that's how I got to be here.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's very satisfying to be able to land a job where you can use your studies. And I also think it's cool when people just kind of navigate their way and find a really nice, cool job that works for them that has nothing to do with what they studied.
Yeah.
But yours happens to be the opposite. So that's cool. Thank you so much, Joely. I love hearing about your path and all the cool work that you do and how you're able to merge these different interests. So thank you for being with us today. And thank you all for tuning in. Bye, Joely.
Bye.